Okay, because we have a situation basically that involves so many people that have committed treason in California. We're talking the Big Seven. So there's far more to this that has to be understood because they didn't just interfere in only California elections, they interfered in federal elections because I was also a federal candidate running for the presidency, bringing out once again the most advanced AI system in the history of the world to unleash to voters. We're talking voter tools, the most powerful voter mechanism ever developed in the history of the world, and these people attack it in California. So we're talking about dealing with economic repairs at a master level. We're talking about dealing with a vast array of understanding of repairs, not just at the California level, but at the federal level. And California has to pay the bill. That means there's no choice but for me to deal with and understanding, plain and simple, I have to create a whole lot of panels and boards to get this job done. Now, constitutionally, I have the right to do this. This is something few people understand, that I have the right as a candidate to merely verbally proclaim once anybody has declared that there's insurrection, rebellion, or invasion. And what we have right now is a system in our country and around our world where we have war. Welcome to reality. Now, my campaign has been hit from all main factors: rebellion, insurrection, and invasion. So this means that I have to end up coordinating with the federal government, and I have to deal with bringing forward fast-paced mass repairs of the archive that I spent my life building. These are the candidate's tools. I'm allowed to run my campaign my way. Laws are actually quite clear. The elections are not allowed to proceed forward until full compensation occurs. The restoration of the tools that I built have to be restored. Now, the mechanism was designed to do something. After going out in the field locally, I was going to end up connecting and uploading up to larger AI mainframe systems. That means things like OpenAI, Grok, XAI, Meta, IBM, Google, Anthropic. Okay, the big nine at this point. Let's start at the big nine, basically. This is how this was going to end up occurring with my election. So now it's crucially important that the repairs not only have to happen, but there has to be new special coordination with the federal government. Because I'm going to bring out things that I researched and found that have very powerful implications respective to the original contracts, respective to American citizens that are endorsed by the Constitution. Once again, I tell people we're in Constitution number 5. And because of the Civil War, the Democratic Party declared war. They started the Civil War. And we have more than a third of the members of the Democratic Party are in rebellion. They are diabolically opposed to the Constitution, and that means they're not allowed to vote. But how do you screen all those voters out? It's very important to understand. Repatriation occurred, and we have parties that have violated their repatriation. Oh, yeah, all the soldiers are dead. They took the choice, 10 years in Leavenworth or repatriate. They repatriated. But immortal instruments, such as political parties, they're considered to be with superior knowledge, and they are not allowed to go into rebellion again. They swore an oath. So at this point, we're talking about, are we going to clean up and salvage the Democratic Party, or is it going to be permanently shut down? So this is where many Democrats have to basically make a decision. And I'm advising them to say, you need to come up to me, my way. You need to join with my forces and repatriate. Or affirm the fact that you are already patriated and that these other people doing these unconstitutional and treasonous actions were against your will, against your actions. Because I know I've talked to plenty of Democrats that says, we don't want these crazy treasonous liberal types in the Democratic Party. So, I'm not gonna sit there and say, this is not a big brushstroke, but it's, at this point, I'm going to say it's at least a third. So we need to resolve that. Now, moving forward, I see that I'm going to have to build these boards, special panels, special boards, and we're going to have to immediately address the situation repairing elections in California. This means that I'm going to have to consider whether or not am I putting other candidates on the board that are also running. Do I put Chad Bianco in a seat? Do I try to find a Democrat, put him in a seat? Do I add a bunch of other people? Do I bring in some California legislators to have a seat? Because we need panels and boards. And there has to be special panels and boards for a lot of features because there's a lot of things that have gone wrong. We're going to have panels and boards for ranchers, panels and boards for just about anything you can imagine. The only way I'm going to be able to pull this off is basically by sequestering the big 9 AI companies to say, hey, need some assistance here. Can we ask you, in the interest of repairing our nation, can you step up? Can you put in with this? Because right now California isn't cooperating. They owe me more than $3.8 billion. You don't just rebuild an archive like the one I built overnight. It was very heavily data-oriented. And I was having lots of problems shuffling around the assets of the archive for decades. Because, frankly, the truth is, this stuff that we're seeing in California, this is an evolution. We are now at a new effect. And this stuff has been evolving for a very long time. And it's very important to understand that parties committing treason, involved in treasonous behavior, they're not allowed to vote. And people are not understanding the Constitution. Now, I've made a lot of shows to explain some of these factors in law. And now we have to outfit the boards and panels properly to go through this material at various levels and take our time. But this is not a 10-year thing. It's not a 5-year thing. It's not even a 2-year thing. This is a state of emergency type situation, and we have to resolve it as fast as possible. And this means I'm going to have to coordinate with the White House. Because some of the things that I worked on are very classified, very important. And my historical research brings a whole lot of interesting things out. Because we had a problem in this country, and I'm going to tell you straight out what happened. We had a war called the War of 1812. The British came in and burned Washington, and I'm telling you right now, there's a whole lot of documents that got destroyed. Yeah, they got a bunch of stuff that they sent out. They got some stuff that got rescued, frankly, but not everything was rescued. There was a whole lot of individual contracts that people had that were being endorsed by the Constitution. That was the agreement. In other words, we go through, we are at Constitution 5 right now. Now, as things evolve to bring other states into situations, we had a lot of players that say it's simple, about these changes. If you invalidate the contracts that we've already made, we're out. We want nothing to do with this, which means there were pre-existing contracts at a large level, respective to many things. So some of these changes that occurred did not necessarily reflect previous contracts that were still ongoing as though completely endorsed. And these things are very important because as some people don't understand things, we had women that were stewards that were voters. They inherited their husbands' affairs. And when they came to town and says, I'm here to vote, you had gentlemen tip their hat and said, ma'am, right this way. We had black people that could vote in this country before people even knew it. You had black people that were very respected in the North that would show up to vote. They were stewards. Nobody stops a steward from voting. This is a rarity that some people don't understand, that there were people, women and black people, that did vote. They always voted. Some of them were with the whole program from the very origins. Now, this is not to say, I don't want to get into all of that stuff about all the mass slavery and this other stuff. I don't want to go there right now. There's a lot of very tragic, truthful material there, and I just don't feel like going there. I'm trying to focus on what we have to do. And we can't have California in violation of the law, of the Constitution, of the pre-existing validated agreements in which the Constitution endorses them. And this means a great many things. We're talking about a lot of people's gun rights here, a lot of people's personal militia rights. And we're talking about a lot of areas where we need to catch up because there's parties who have not been bringing forth items in balance. It's right in the Constitution. The government's going to provide for the militias. And these people think, oh, well, we just make another one and that's it. No, those are separate militias. We have complete endorsement of all original militias that were pre-existing and the right for people to create militias anytime they wanted. These are considered as though, by the way, mandatory. You are expected to have firearms. Oh, you have a family. You're expected to outfit them. Oh, you get together and make a town group. Oh, yes, come forward. Submit. If you need firearms, tell your representative. They will assist in this. Welcome to the Constitution and the truth that some people never bothered to research. It's there. So we have a lot of work to do, people. A lot of work. And, I'm just telling you, I'm the ideal candidate for governor of California, and I'm an ideal candidate for a future president. Because I understand something about working with people that many other people never get to a certain level. When you run an archive and you're dealing with information that's absolutely cutting edge at the top end, this is not a public library where you bring your kids into it and say, yes, go read all the Dr. Seuss books. Okay, I gave those away. I'm talking about what I focused on, which was mostly the rarities and highly prioritized items that other people were not involving themselves in or couldn't understand how to involve themselves in. So there was a lot of industry-related books. There was a lot of industry-related videos of various types of industries. So there's a lot of material that, quite frankly, it was classified. There's a lot of material that I am the origin developer of the information. I have been sharing information with the federal government for many, many years. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of people don't know how that works, and a lot of people think they know how that works. Let me explain this to you. You have no idea how that works. Because in many cases, you're going to write something up, and you want it to be fast-paced right through the system. There's no name on it. It just comes in, someone goes, what is this? And they read it, and they get it handed to somebody else. What is this? Let's pass this through the chain. Let's find the place where this gets a home. That's how it works. That's how it works. Because sometimes you have people that come up with stuff all the time, and, nobody necessarily wants to have to deal with extra paperwork. Now, as far as my recent disclosures, I have put material out, samples, involving parties that have committed treason in California. That material has basically been scrapped into other people's making of language models. More than 3 million language models now have material that I developed. Material of evidence. That evidence is never, ever going away. And there are many other important jobs that have to move forward. And this is something that some people are not quite understanding. But it has to get done. We have to make new changes to the economy. So when I say that California is not only stuck with the bill of repairing my archive, they're stuck with the catch-up bill that also deals with catching up with how they interfered with federal elections. How people, voters in the United States, were robbed of their introduction to the most advanced mobile archive system involving AI that's ever been created in the history of the world. These people in California attacked it. And these people in California, there's a big story yet to hit. They intentionally designed demographic items intentionally to destroy people's lives. We're not just talking about simple discrimination. We're talking about these people did this with the intent to commit genocide, to destroy people's lives deliberately on a scale that's mind-boggling. And this cannot go unchecked. There's item after item where California gets into ridiculousness, and literally we have to have the Supreme Court step up and order courts to adhere in California to federal law, the Constitution of the United States, and importantly, full scope argumenting. This is crucially important because that means that previously we have a whole lot of rulings that are what? They're wrong, they're bad, they're not constitutional. That means a master checking. That means that we have to do a master judicial sorting in California to restore proper, original, constitutional framework structure respective to various decisions. It's a big job. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of parties, a lot of players, a lot of organizations that are going to need to be able to participate. And the sheer fact that I had done an awful lot of work to make sure that I had reasonable samples to be able to properly coordinate the proper structure and be able to filter it properly. It's very important because one of the biggest problems with AI right now is getting your information sorted properly. I've talked about it on the web, about how you have to be careful about sorting your data to begin with. Because a lot of people, quite frankly, they were in a hurry and they were trying to find alternate methods to sort material. So there's a lot of material that you could say is kind of sort of contaminated a little bit. This is part of the reality of making language models. And I knew this decades ago. So I painstakingly was making some of the most interesting notes. Now, all of those notes today you could refer to as though prompts, that would be as though collectively filters, which means that my education puts me on the cutting edge of understanding some of the deepest depths of AI. So there's a lot of damage that occurred to this archive, and some of it has to do with my personal interest in various endeavors. It's my right to pursue them. And these parties had no right to attack them, to destroy them, because that violates national security. More than 10 million violations have been committed by the Big Seven in California, respective to just my archive alone. So to clean up this big, huge mess, it has to put into the loop other victims. That means the federal government. That means the voters of the United States. That means definitely the starting point of the voters of California. They have not had disclosure of what I would consider the minimal amount of truth concerning these people's treasonous activities. This must occur. The repairs must be done. So I'm tasked with trying to figure out how to sort who's going to go on these panels. And I'm inclined at this point to invite many people who are active candidates in California right now to help people in California feel that, well, what are the issues that they're into? This is what you get here and now. I'm going to try to sequester as many AI companies to see if they'll participate. Maybe we can get them to go ahead and compete and step into this arena and open their hearts and their wallets and help fix this problem. Competition would be wonderful. A coalition would be even better. A federation of AI companies, a new type, that I think would be a good idea. See, I'd like to see a no-fall policy, personally. So, personally, I think I'm the most qualified person that could ever run for governor in California, because I'm ready to use the most modern tools and work with people who are all on cutting edges and quickly talk with them, listen to them, understand what they're talking about, and be able to work with that information. Yet I also have experience understanding how things can deviate. Some people would say, you mean the woke part? Yeah, I mean some of that woke part that some of you noticed, because I've also been in business, mostly with nonprofit, my whole life. And one of the reasons I'm not with huge amounts of money in the bank, or virtually none right now, is simple. I keep coming under demographic intentionally designed attacks by parties who have intentionally engineered a system and have created genocide. We're seeing this happen every day. People are dying in the street. We have people in Greenland that are like, what's this deal the United States is trying to offer for us to join into? And they look at California and they're afraid. They're in a horror movie instantly. They go, they won't allow people to build roofs over their heads with their own hands to save their own lives from the elements. These people are practicing genocide. This is lunacy. We're in danger by people with minds like that. And they're all going to be agreeing with one another. They don't have homeless people in Greenland. And there's a good reason for it. Because the standard rules of nature since the beginning of humankind is you build shelter to protect yourself from the elements with your own hands. And California has banned people from building houses, building structures with their own hands, and there's no excuse for that whatsoever. It is completely unconstitutional. They've modified things to a point where we have areas of legitimate concern to label additional charges of treason. Now, I've worked very, very hard for decades to understand these various complexities and niceties and come through with historical research to understand original fabric design. And that's what we need to restore. And if we do this properly, we are going to have the biggest financial lift yet again in the history of this nation. That part I actually look forward to involving myself in. I look forward to working with the White House. I look forward to working with members of the Senate and Congress. Now, hopefully I can have people that make sense, because Congress and the Senate do have some members that are being difficult, I would say unreasonable. We're witnessing some of them right now. It needs to stop. It's ridiculous. It's counterproductive. And they're wasting our time. It's a bunch of dumb grandstanding that is not focusing on the issues. I want to restore everybody that's a vested citizen in Origin Group 1 and Group 2, which cuts off right after World War II, and restore what was promised. Vested citizen stock. This means residuals from minerals. It means dividends from deals. It means land staking rights. And our Origin also guarantees Group 1 Origin with what is supposed to be unlimited access to the United States Treasury for the purpose of borrowing money to develop hard assets, real estate, business, items that were considered to be as though likened to a sure deal. That has to be restored. And I have a plan to get that done. And I look forward to be able to work with as many people that are interested. I hope the White House would receive my research in a fair and wise manner. I see our president, Mr. Trump, basically a deal doer. And that's exactly what we need right now in this nation, whether some people believe it or not. Because deals are what we have to get done. Now, finding the best deal, hey, we need to work on that. My name is Michael Crosby. And yes, I'm a candidate for governor of California, and I am stepping forward, demanding and pressing criminal charges and opening up investigations to actually repair California. Right here, right now. People, you need to stand up. That starts with you understanding that the Big Seven have lied to you. They're lying about the blacklisting. At what time did the Secretary of State's office know that Julie Su was blacklisting over 1.2 million people? Used their name, got money from the federal government, stole that money, and gave it to other people that weren't even citizens. Some of them weren't even in the United States. As what? As this money was allocated for other people like myself. Yes, people. Yes, people. We have parties who intentionally rigged elections and blacklisted people. We have people who've lost their homes. We had children that went from having their own room and their own toys to living in the street, people. This is not a game. Mass economic sabotage is treason. And the Secretary of State's office knew this. They were in dereliction of duty repeatedly when archives were coming under attack by their own people. There's no excuse for this, people. Voters of California and the United States, you have been lied to by these people. They have intentionally done things, and they are so far into the treason area, it's not even funny. Again, Michael Crosby, I'm running for government, California, as the governor of California. Technically, By original constitutional law, I should be taking a force of heavily armed people and taking all of these people into custody and bringing forward an emergency, brand new governor's board and include basically the candidates in these boards to be able to help sort the information and get these problems resolved. Thank you.